but I would never use an outline for a class to prepare unless it's for that particular class with that same professor. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new here. Hey, hello, my name is Angela and I make videos about law school, lawyer life, and all things in between. So you guys, you are like well into the fall semester. Like, it's real now. If you're a 1L, you've gone through orientation, you guys have made it past your first week of school, and you are in the full swing of the fall semester. So I thought it would be a good idea to make a video about probably one of the most important things about law school, or when it comes to law school, and that is outlining. Okay, in this video we're going to talk about 5 things to avoid when outlining in law school. As many of you already know, your outline is essentially your study guide for each of your courses. So your outline is super important because it is what you are going to use to study for your final exams. And as you all know, in law school, final exams a lot of times are the only exam, are super important for achieving success in law school because it will determine your final grade in each of your courses. So let's get into these tips. First tip, please listen to me. First tip is do not delay your start. Don't wait to do your outlines. Start now. Start today. Ideally, you would have started the first lecture of class, but if you haven't, it's not too late. Go ahead and start now. Outlining early on is going to save you a headache. It's going to save you the stress. The last thing you want to be doing when you get closer to your final exams is scrambling to find an outline or scrambling to prepare your own outline or update your outlines that you started and kind of fell off. So start outlining early and then continue to update them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis from the beginning. I can't stress how important this is, you guys. Ideally, when it comes to final exam time on your first day of studying, you should have your outline substantially complete. Now, a lot of times when you start studying for your final exam later in the semester, you will have a few more lectures, so you might need to update your outline a little bit. But like I said, your outline should be substantially complete by the time you start studying. So in order to make sure that you do that, your outlines should be done and updated as you go. So second thing is, do not outline what you don't understand. Like I said already, your outline is your study guide. If you're just blindly writing down notes from class or blindly studying somebody else's outline, when you go to study for the exam, it's not going to be helpful. You're not going to be able to properly analyze and digest the information. You might be able to memorize it, but if you don't know what it means, it's not going to do you any good when it comes to the final exam, because your study material is essentially going to prepare you to be able to identify things when it comes to the prompts and the questions on the final exam. So if there's something you don't understand, take a moment to digest it, try to understand it, ask your professor questions, and make sure that you understand everything before you just plop it down in your outline. Or say you're just trying to update your outline and get the notes in, make sure you read and go back and make sure you understand everything. This is super important when it comes to borrowed outlines. Again, the purpose of the outline is to be your study guide, okay? It's supposed to make your life easier when it comes to memorization and preparing for your final exam. So you need to understand everything that's on that outline. Third tip is don't make your outlines too long and too full of information. Obviously, you do need to have, quite a bit of information in your outlines because, again, it's your study guide. You're gonna have rules, you're even gonna have examples from cases, but try to make your descriptions very succinct, because a lot of the stuff you're either going to be trying to memorize or you're going to be trying to make sure you really understand it. So the more information you have, the harder it's going to be to digest that outline when it comes to study time. Try to find a really good balance between adding enough information so you really are understanding what you're doing and not giving yourself too much information to make it unbearable and unrealistic that you will actually be able to understand and memorize parts of your outline. The fourth tip is add examples from lectures and cases to your outline. So like I just mentioned, it's a good thing to have, examples in your outline. You want to put examples that you learned of either in reading or in class so that you can easily identify, the principles and concepts that you learned in class, because that is how you're going to identify those things on the exam. When you really know your stuff, those things tend to jump out at you. If I were you, I would really use examples that were given by the professor during their lectures. And the reason for this is the professor is not going to reinvent the wheel. They're likely going to use similar content and similar fact patterns in their exams that they went over in class. So if you plug in those examples from class on your outline, you'll probably find yourself seeing something similar on that final exam, which would be great for you because you'll be able to identify it and ace that portion of the question. Okay, so the last tip is super, super, super important. Do not, I repeat, do not blindly study someone else's outline, okay? So the big question a lot of 1Ls have, especially in law school or when they're starting law school, is should I create my own outlines or should I use somebody else's outline? And honestly, I can honestly do a quick video on this topic alone, and I might even do that just to have it in the archives. But you guys, I personally don't think there's anything wrong with using someone else's outline. I did both paths. It just depended on the class and it just depended on the quality and availability of the outlines that were already out there. My advice to you is do what you feel comfortable with, but I personally don't see anything wrong with it, and a lot of times it's a good idea because it gives you something to start with. Just from my personal experience, I had success with using other people's outlines. I also had success with using my own. I made an A+ in a class with the outline that I created, and I also made A+ with other people's outlines. So you can take that into consideration. But if you do decide to use somebody else's outline, the worst thing you can do is blindly study it. So I'll give you an example to kind of tell you what I mean. So you have a contracts class, right? And you get an outline from a 2L. So they give you an outline and you go through the entire semester, and then it's day 1 of studying for our finals, and you pull out their outline and you start to study it. No, 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 no. The proper way to use somebody else's outline is to review it and make sure you understand it, and supplement it, update it with your own notes and understandings to make it more your outline. Refine it for you and your understanding. 1, we're all human, we make mistakes, right? So there might be some inaccurate information in those outlines. 2, we're all individuals and we understand things differently. So an example or some sort of slang or anything like that might make sense to the person who gave it to you, but it might not help you understand a particular concept. So when I say supplement it or update it, I mean refine it for your understanding. And I personally think the best way to do this is from day 1, when you get to class, have that outline up while the professor is lecturing, or when you get home and you have your lecture notes, have that outline up and compare it with your lecture notes. Go through your lecture notes and update the outline with your notes as needed. So if your lecture notes has the definition of a contract and the outline has that same definition, you might not need to update that part, right? But there's an example of, say, consideration for a contract, and the person example that they used in the outline that you borrowed is okay, but the one that the professor used is much better, or you understand it better. I would switch that example out because that's better for your understanding. That might have been good for that person's understanding, but now this is now your outline. Make it your own. And on that note, you guys, and I don't know if I've ever explicitly said this. I know I've said it in my one-on-one consultations, but I don't know if I said it on the channel. I don't think you should ever use an outline that's from a different professor but same class. So for example, you have a friend who's also a 1L and they obviously have contracts as well, and they give you an outline, but it's for their professor, not yours. So you have Professor Y, they have Professor X. I don't think you should use Professor X's outline for Professor Y's class. You should be looking for an outline for Professor Y's class. You shouldn't get online and use Barbie outlines and study that either. Now, if you need it to help you understand and to study, that's a different case. But I would never use an outline for a class to prepare unless it's for that particular class with that same professor. And I just want to make that clear because I'm not sure if I've ever said it. And I have to remember sometimes I'm speaking to people who have not been through law school before. And so I just really did want to point out that distinction. It dawned on me that I hadn't told you guys that when I had a one-on-one consultation with one of you guys. But yeah, y'all, those are my 5 tips when it comes to outlining. With that, I'm gonna wish you guys good luck on this semester. You guys are gonna kill it. I know you are. If you have any questions, put them in the comments down below. If you have any video suggestions, put them in the comments down below. If you're not following me on Instagram, what are you doing? Follow me on Instagram at _theaspiringboss. I post way more consistently on Instagram. I did take a few weeks off. As many of you guys know, I had a baby boy, but I am back posting this upcoming week. I will be posting on YouTube as much as I can. It's a little bit harder to film videos with the baby, but I'm gonna try to do my best. Also, I don't think I talked about it much on here, but I did talk about it on Instagram. I am offering one-on-one consults where we can just talk about your legal journey, any questions you have. There's different sessions for different things. No legal advice. I'm not providing any legal advice. This is all about kind of like a mentorship thing, like for your legal journey. So no legal advice. I do not offer legal advice on the internet. I am not your lawyer. I'm a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. This is one-on-one consults for your legal journey. If you have questions or want guidance or opinions on your legal journey as you go through it. Lastly, don't forget to join the Aspiring Lawyers group on Facebook. If you guys are not in that group there, it's basically a community that I'm trying to build for lawyers, law students, and aspiring lawyers to kind of just support each other and be there for each other. So I'll leave the link to that in the description box below, as well as the link to book a one-on-one consult, because I have opened my schedule back up for those. I know I've gotten several DMs and emails because my books were closed for most of July and August because I was momming it, but they're back open now. With that, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.